My wife, Lisa, thought I was oblivious. She believed I didn't notice her blossoming romance with her coworker, Mark. She assumed I was either too stupid or too trusting to catch on. She believed I would accept her affair, stay silent, and continue being her husband. She had no idea I'd been suspicious for months. It started with the usual signs: late nights at the office, sudden updates to her wardrobe, and a more aggressive approach to sex. But it was the emotional distance that got me the most. We stopped doing the things we used to love. Conversations became shallow, and she was always glued to her phone. Whenever I brought it up, Lisa brushed me off, calling me insecure and possessive. I couldn't take it anymore, so I hired a private investigator, Jake Sloan. The day I sat in Jake's office was the day my suspicions were confirmed. He handed me a detailed report. Lisa wasn't cheating yet. She and Mark were what they called work spouses. They had lunch together every day, held hands, hugged, and even kissed sometimes. The photos Jake showed me made my blood boil. In addition to lunch dates, they often worked late into the night together, even when there was no need. It was clear they wanted to avoid going home to their respective spouses. Jake also tracked their emails and messages. Although he couldn't show me the actual messages due to legal reasons, he gave me a summary. They hadn't slept together, but their conversations were extremely flirtatious, borderline sexting. Mark had sent Lisa pictures of himself in various states of undress, and she reciprocated with pictures of her breasts. Yet the worst part was their plan to finally take things to the next level. Mark's wife was leaving town for a few days, and they intended to use this opportunity to sleep together. They brainstormed ways to get rid of me. Everything from a girls' trip excuse to suggesting I go on a golf trip with my buddies. The nerve of them. But the plan they settled on was shockingly bold. Mark convinced Lisa that she should be honest with me, tell me about their affair, and that I would just accept it. He made her believe that sleeping with him would improve our marriage and sex life. He thought I was some kind of pushover who would do anything to keep Lisa happy, even let her have an affair. The audacity! I couldn't believe Lisa bought into his nonsense. She should have known me better. I would never tolerate infidelity. I had Jake continue monitoring her messages, and sure enough, the call came in on Friday. Lisa wanted to talk to me after work on Monday. She was going to tell me she had a date with Mark. They planned to have dinner, go dancing, and then spend the night in a hotel. She was even planning to come home on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how much sex they had. I had 2 days to prepare for this confrontation. They jokingly called it an intervention, but I was determined to turn it into a showdown. I spent the weekend rehearsing what I would say, deciding how to handle this betrayal. When Monday came, I was ready. Lisa called me just after lunch. "Hey, honey," she began. "Can you make sure you're home on time tonight? I need to talk to you about something important." "Sure thing," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have some news for you too. I'll be home by 5:15. She seemed taken aback by my response, but agreed. I left work early, needing to prepare myself for what was about to go down. I sat at the kitchen table, a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, and 2 glasses ready, waiting for Lisa to come home. When she walked in at 5:27, I was a bundle of nerves, but determined to stay calm. She threw her keys and purse on the table, clearly not expecting me to be ready for the conversation. "Hi, honey," I greeted her, mirroring her casual tone from earlier. "Do you want to talk now, or do you need some time?" She hesitated, probably surprised by my eagerness to get straight to the point. Sure. Let's talk now." "Great," I said, pouring us both a glass of wine. "You don't mind if I go first, do you?" "No, that's fine," she replied, taking a sip of her wine, clearly needing the liquid courage. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Lisa, I want a divorce." The shock on her face was palpable. She stared at me, her confusion slowly morphing into fear and anxiety. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't love you anymore," I said bluntly. "I've been unhappy for a long time, and I can't do this anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't stop. I laid out all the evidence I had. Her lunches with Mark, the late nights, the intimate messages. When I pulled out the investigator's report and showed her the pictures of her and Mark, she broke down completely. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. I thought it would make things better. I thought that I would just accept it." I cut her off, my voice rising. "You thought I would be okay with you having an affair? How could you think that?" She didn't have an answer, just more tears and apologies. But it was too late. I had made up my mind. "I'm moving out," I told her. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be served with the divorce papers on Friday." She begged and pleaded, but I was done. The betrayal was too deep. I grabbed my pre-packed bag and walked out the door, leaving her crying on the kitchen floor. I drove aimlessly for a while, trying to clear my head. It felt like the world was collapsing around me. I had planned everything meticulously, but now that it was happening, the pain was overwhelming. I ended up at my friend John's place. John had always been my rock, and I needed his support now more than ever. When I got to his house, he took one look at me and knew something was terribly wrong. He didn't ask questions, just let me in and handed me a beer. We sat in silence for a while, and then I finally broke down and told him everything. John listened patiently, his face growing darker with each word. "You did the right thing," he finally said. "You deserve better than someone who would do that to you." We talked for hours, John helping me process everything. By the end of the night, I felt a bit more grounded, though the pain was still raw. I crashed on his couch, too exhausted to drive back to my mom's place. The next few days were a blur. I went to work trying to keep up appearances, but it was hard to focus. Lisa kept texting and calling, but I ignored her. I wasn't ready to talk, and there was nothing she could say to make things right. I also reached out to a lawyer to start the divorce process officially. On Friday, I got a call from Jake Sloan. He had more updates for me, but the most important one was that Lisa and Mark's plan had been derailed. Mark's wife had found out about the affair and had confronted them at work. Apparently, she had made quite a scene, slapping Lisa and calling her all sorts of names. Mark was fired, and his wife was filing for divorce. Jake also told me that Mark's wife had contacted him, and she wanted to meet with me. At first, I was hesitant, but I needed to know the full extent of Lisa's betrayal. We arranged to meet at a local coffee shop the next day. When I walked into the coffee shop, I spotted her immediately. Jennifer looked exhausted, but determined. We exchanged awkward pleasantries and sat down to talk. "I'm sorry for all of this," she began. "I never imagined something like this would happen. Mark was always so good at hiding things." "I understand," I replied. "Lisa and we were supposed to be solid. I don't know when things changed." Jennifer nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I found out through a text message. I confronted Mark and he didn't even deny it. He just blamed me for not being enough for him." Hearing this made my blood boil. "Lisa tried to convince me that having an affair would help our marriage. Can you believe that? She thought I would just accept it." Jennifer sighed. "Men like Mark, they manipulate. They convince you of anything to get what they want. But I'm not letting him off easy. He's going to lose everything." As we talked, I realized that we were both in the same boat, dealing with the fallout of our spouses' betrayals. We shared our stories, each revelation more painful than the last. By the end of the conversation, I felt a strange sense of camaraderie with Jennifer. We exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch. Leaving the coffee shop, I felt a little lighter. Knowing that Lisa's actions had consequences beyond our marriage gave me some small measure of comfort. But the road ahead was still daunting. The next few weeks were going to be rough, and I needed to prepare myself for the emotional roller coaster. Back at my mom's place, I sat down with her and explained everything that had happened. She was heartbroken for me, but also supportive. "You need to take care of yourself," she said. "Don't let this destroy you." I knew she was right. I had to find a way to move forward, to rebuild my life. The divorce process started, and it was as painful as I had expected. Lisa continued to reach out, trying to apologize, to make amends, but I kept my distance. I needed time and space to heal. One evening, as I was sitting on the porch, my phone buzzed with a message from Jennifer. She had just finalized her divorce and she wanted to check in on me. We ended up talking for hours, sharing our progress and setbacks. It was comforting to know someone else was going through the same thing. As the weeks turned into months, the pain began to dull. I started seeing a therapist, working through the betrayal and my feelings of inadequacy. It wasn't easy, but slowly, I started to find myself again. Therapy was a game changer. My therapist, Dr. Miller, helped me navigate the tumultuous sea of emotions I was drowning in. Each session peeled back layers of hurt and anger, exposing the raw wounds beneath. But with each revelation came a step toward healing. I spent a lot of time reflecting on my marriage with Lisa. There were so many good times, memories that felt tainted now. But Dr. Miller urged me to see them for what they were, genuine moments of happiness, regardless of how things ended. It was hard to separate the past from the present, but it was necessary. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into my projects, staying late and taking on new responsibilities. My boss noticed my dedication and rewarded me with a promotion. It was bittersweet. I wished I could share the news with Lisa, but she was no longer the person I turned to with good news. John continued to be my rock. We hung out almost every weekend, going to bars, watching sports, anything to keep my mind off the divorce. One night, after a few too many drinks, he suggested something wild. "Why don't you take a trip?" he said. "Get away from all this crap for a while, clear your head." The idea had merit. A change of scenery might be exactly what I needed. I decided on a solo road trip, something I'd always wanted to do but never found the time for. I planned a route through the Southwest, hitting some national parks and scenic spots along the way. The trip was everything I hoped for. Driving through vast deserts and towering mountains, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. I camped under the stars, hiked challenging trails, and met interesting people. Each mile put more distance between me and the pain of the past. During my travels, I kept in touch with Jennifer. She was a source of strength, understanding exactly what I was going through. We exchanged stories about our respective divorces, our struggles, and our small victories. It felt good to have someone who truly understood. One evening, while sitting by a campfire in Arizona, I received a call from Lisa. I hesitated but decided to answer. She sounded different, more resigned. "Hi, Tom," she began. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." Her voice cracked, and I could tell she was holding back tears. "I know I hurt you in ways I can't even imagine. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I regret what I did every single day." I didn't know what to say. The anger I felt had simmered down, replaced by a profound sadness. "Lisa, I appreciate the apology, but there's no going back. We both need to move on." She was silent for a moment. "I understand. I just needed to say it. I hope you find happiness, Tom. You deserve it." "You too, Lisa," I replied. And with that, we ended the call. It felt like closing a chapter. When I returned home from the trip, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The divorce was finalized shortly after, and I moved into a new apartment. It was a fresh start, a place that was entirely mine. I decorated it with things that made me happy. Artwork from my travels, cozy furniture, and of course a big TV for watching sports with John. Jennifer and I continued to stay in touch. She suggested we meet up for coffee again, and I agreed. We had shared so much over the phone, but seeing her in person was different. There was a connection between us, something I hadn't felt in a long time. As we sat in the same coffee shop where we first met, we talked about everything and nothing. It was comfortable, easy. When she laughed, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. "Thank you for being there," I said. "I don't think I could have gotten through this without you." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Same here, Tom. You've been my rock too." The conversation flowed effortlessly, and by the end of our coffee date, I knew I wanted to see her again. We made plans for dinner the following week. As the days passed, I found myself looking forward to our dinner. It was the first time I felt genuine excitement in a long time. When the night arrived, I put on my best shirt, feeling a mix of nerves and anticipation. Dinner with Jennifer was perfect. We talked and laughed, sharing stories and dreams. There was a chemistry between us that was undeniable. By the end of the night, I realized I was starting to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope. Such a simple word, But after everything that had happened, it felt like an anchor, something to hold on to in the storm. Dinner with Jennifer rekindled a spark inside me, a spark that had been snuffed out by betrayal and heartache. We walked out of that restaurant, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt light. Our relationship grew slowly. We both carried scars, and we were careful with each other like handling something fragile. We knew the dangers of rushing into things, yet despite our caution, the connection between us deepened. It felt real, something built on understanding and shared pain. One weekend, we decided to escape to a cabin in the mountains. It was the perfect retreat, away from the chaos of our lives. We spent our days hiking through the woods, our nights talking by the fire. One night, as the fire crackled and the stars shimmered overhead, Jennifer opened up to me. "Tom, I've grown really fond of you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm scared of getting hurt again." I took her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine. "I know, Jennifer, I'm scared too, but I believe we can find happiness again, together." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Let's take it one day at a time." And we did. Each day brought us closer, healing wounds that once seemed impossible to mend. But as our relationship flourished, so did the specter of the past. One evening, I received an unexpected call from Lisa. I hadn't heard from her since our divorce was finalized. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Tom," she began, her voice shaky, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." I listened in silence as she poured out her regrets, her voice cracking with emotion. "I know I can't undo the damage I've caused, but I needed you to know that I regret it every single day." A part of me felt a pang of sympathy, but I had to stay strong. "Lisa, I appreciate the apology, but there's no going back. We both need to move on." She sniffled, trying to hold back her tears. "I understand. I hope you find happiness, Tom. You deserve it." "You too, Lisa," I replied, ending the call. It felt like closing the final chapter of a painful story. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Jennifer and I continued to grow closer, but life had a way of throwing curveballs. One evening, while we were cooking dinner, Jennifer turned to me with a serious expression. "Tom, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "I've been offered a job in another city. It's an amazing opportunity, but it means I'd have to move." The news hit me like a sledgehammer. The thought of losing her, after everything we'd been through, was unbearable. But I also knew how important this opportunity was for her. "What do you want to do?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Jennifer looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "I want to take the job, but I don't want to lose you. Would you consider coming with me?" The idea of uprooting my life again was terrifying, but the thought of being without Jennifer was worse. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. "I'll come with you," I finally said. "We'll start fresh together." Her face lit up with relief, and she threw her arms around me. "Thank you, Tom. This means everything to me." We began planning the move, navigating the logistics of relocating to a new city. It was stressful, but we faced it together. The day we packed up our things and set off for our new home felt like the beginning of a new adventure. In our new city, we found a small apartment that we made our own. It wasn't easy starting over, but we had each other, and that made all the difference. We explored our new surroundings, making friends and establishing new routines. It was a chance to rebuild, to create something new from the ashes of our past. But the ghosts of our pasts still lingered. One night, as we sat on our balcony, looking out at the city lights, Jennifer turned to me with a troubled expression. "Tom, I've been thinking a lot about what we went through," she said softly. "Sometimes I still wake up at night, haunted by it." I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I know, it's hard to forget, but we're stronger now, together." She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "I just want us to be happy, to move past the pain." "We will," I promised, "one day at a time." As the days turned into weeks, then months, we continued to build our life together. The pain of the past didn't disappear, but it became more manageable. We found joy in the small moments, in the quiet evenings spent together, in the laughter we shared. Yet life has a way of testing your resolve. One evening, as we were sitting down to dinner, Jennifer received a call that shook our world. It was from her ex-husband, a man she had tried to forget. He was in trouble, desperate, and pleading for her help. Jennifer was torn. Despite everything, she felt a sense of obligation, a need to help him. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the struggle between her past and our present. "You have to do what you think is right," I said, trying to hide the fear in my voice. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want to lose what we have, Tom, but I can't just ignore him." I nodded, understanding her dilemma. "We'll face this together, whatever happens." Jennifer went to help her ex, and for a while I was left alone with my thoughts. The fear of losing her gnawed at me, but I knew this was something she needed to do. Our relationship had been built on understanding and support, and I had to trust that we would come through this stronger. She returned a few days later, exhausted but resolute. "It's over," she said. "He's getting the help he needs, but I made it clear that my life is with you now." Relief washed over me, and I pulled her into a tight embrace. "Thank you, Jennifer, for choosing us." The experience brought us even closer. We realized that our pasts, with all their pain and complexity, didn't have to define our future. We were in control of our destiny, and together we could face anything. In the end, our love wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was a love forged in the fires of betrayal and rebuilt with patience and trust. And as we stood together looking out at the world, I knew we had something worth fighting for. Jennifer and I stood on our balcony, the city lights twinkling beneath us, a testament to our journey. The trials we had faced together had forged a bond stronger than I had ever imagined possible. But life, as it often does, had more surprises in store. One evening, as we were having dinner, I received a message that turned my world upside down. It was from Lisa. Despite everything, she had found a way to reach me again. "Tom, I know this is unexpected, but I need to talk to you. It's important." I showed Jennifer the message, my heart pounding. She gave me a concerned look but nodded. "You should hear her out," she said softly. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet Lisa. We decided on a neutral location, a quiet park where we could talk without the distractions of our past. As I waited for her, memories of our life together flooded back, both the good and the bad. Lisa arrived looking more haggard than I remembered, her eyes filled with a mix of regret and desperation. We sat on a bench, an awkward silence hanging between us before she finally spoke. "Tom, I know I have no right to ask for anything from you," she began, her voice trembling. "But I need your help. I'm in a lot of trouble." I listened as she detailed the mess she had found herself in. Mark, her former lover, had turned out to be a manipulative, controlling monster. He had left her in financial ruin, and now she was facing eviction and job loss. It was clear that she had hit rock bottom. "Why come to me, Lisa?" I asked, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "You chose him over us." Tears streamed down her face. "I know, and I regret it every single day. I was foolish, blinded by his promises. I thought I was doing what was best for me, but I was wrong. Please, Tom, you're the only one I can turn to." Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave her to deal with the consequences of her actions. But another part, the part that remembered the good times we shared, felt a pang of empathy. I couldn't just abandon her in her time of need, despite everything. "All right, Lisa," I said finally. "I'll help you, but this doesn't change anything between us." She nodded, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, Tom. I don't deserve your kindness." I helped Lisa find a temporary place to stay and connected her with a financial advisor to get her back on her feet. It was a difficult process, seeing her so vulnerable, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Jennifer was incredibly supportive during this time, understanding my need to help despite the history. Our bond grew even stronger as we navigated this challenge together. She saw my struggle, my compassion, and never once judged me for it. "You're a good man, Tom," she said one night as we lay in bed. "Helping Lisa shows how big your heart is. I love you for that." Her words were a balm to my weary soul. Jennifer's unwavering support gave me the strength to move forward, to continue building our life together. As the weeks turned into months, Lisa slowly began to rebuild her life. She found a new job and started to regain her independence. She expressed her gratitude constantly, and while our relationship would never be the same, we found a place of mutual respect. With Lisa's situation stabilizing, I could focus fully on my future with Jennifer. We decided to take another trip, this time to a tropical paradise. It was a chance to escape, to celebrate the love we had built and the obstacles we had overcome. The trip was magical. We spent our days exploring the island, snorkeling in crystal-clear waters, and our nights enjoying romantic dinners on the beach. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, I felt a surge of emotion. "Jennifer," I said, taking her hand, "I can't imagine my life without you. These past months have shown me what true love and partnership look like. I love you more than words can express." Tears filled her eyes as she smiled at me. "I love you too, Tom. You've made me believe in love again." In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the island and the depth of our feelings, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. It was a new beginning, one filled with hope, love, and the promise of a future we would build together. The trip to the tropical paradise was the perfect reset button. Jennifer and I returned home more in love than ever, our bond stronger and more resilient. We had weathered so many storms, and now it felt like we were finally sailing into calm waters. A few months after our return, I began planning something special. Jennifer had brought so much joy and stability into my life, and I wanted to solidify our future together. I started secretly arranging a proposal, gathering all the pieces for a moment that would capture our journey and the love we had cultivated. One evening, I took Jennifer to the place where we first had dinner, the same restaurant that marked the beginning of our romantic journey. It was a small, intimate setting, filled with the warmth of our shared memories. We were seated at a cozy corner table, and as the evening progressed, the anticipation in my chest grew. After dessert, I took her hand across the table. "Jennifer, this place holds so many memories for us. It's where we began to heal, to trust, and to love again." She smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I remember. It feels like a lifetime ago, but also like it was just yesterday." I stood up, moving to her side of the table, and took a deep breath. The restaurant had been in on my plan, and as I knelt down, the staff subtly drew back, giving us a moment of privacy. "Jennifer," I said, pulling out the ring I'd chosen for her, "you have been my rock, my partner, and my best friend. You've shown me what it means to love and be loved. Will you marry me?" Her eyes widened in surprise, and then filled with tears. She nodded vigorously, barely able to speak. "Yes, Tom. Yes, 1,000 times yes." I slipped the ring on her finger, and the restaurant erupted in applause. We kissed, sealing our promise to each other, and I felt a wave of relief and happiness wash over me. This was the beginning of the next chapter in our lives, one filled with hope and promise. Planning the wedding was a joyful experience. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with only our closest friends and family. It was a celebration of not just our love, but of our resilience and the journey we had taken to find each other. The day of the wedding was perfect. Jennifer looked stunning in her dress, and as she walked down the aisle, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We exchanged vows that we had written ourselves, words that spoke to our journey, our struggles, and our unwavering love for each other. "I promise to stand by you through every storm and every sunny day," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "To cherish and respect you, to laugh with you, and to comfort you in times of sorrow. You are my best friend, my partner, my everything. I love you, Jennifer, today and always."
Jennifer's eyes were brimming with tears as she spoke her vows. "Tom, you have shown me the true meaning of love and forgiveness. I promise to support you, to grow with you, and to love you unconditionally. You are my heart, my soul, my home. I love you today and forever." As we kissed to seal our vows, our friends and family cheered. And I knew that despite all the pain and heartache, I had found my happily ever after. Our life together was everything I had hoped for and more. We traveled, explored new hobbies, and built a home filled with love and laughter. The ghosts of our past still lingered, but they no longer held power over us. We had faced them, conquered them, and moved forward stronger than ever. One evening, as we sat on our balcony looking out at the city lights, Jennifer turned to me, a serene smile on her face. "Tom, thank you for taking a chance on us, for believing in love again." I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close. "Thank you for showing me that love is worth fighting for being my partner, my confidant, my everything." As we sat there wrapped in each other's arms, I realized that our story was not just one of love, but of resilience, forgiveness, and the beauty of second chances. We had turned our pain into strength, our scars into wisdom, and found a love that was true and enduring. And so, in the quiet of the night, with the city lights twinkling below us, I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart.